Welcome to Curiosity Unleashed, where we'll discover that everyone has a story. Real life, real people, real stories. We're your hosts. I'm Emily.
I'm Tia.
And I'm Tara.
Let's discover a story.
Today we're talking with Trevor. And in interest of complete transparency, we want to preface this with he's my and Tara's brother. He's also a husband of 23 years and a father of 2 teenagers. He's here with us today to share the story of a man who was lost, broken, and completely controlled by heroin. A man who nearly lost everything, and the moments that brought him to recovery so many years ago. Trevor's here to share with us his story.
So first off, we'd like to say thank you and welcome for joining us today, Trevor. And thank you for being so willing to share such a personal journey with our listeners.
Yes, definitely.
So let's just jump right into it. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe expand a little bit on what Tia already told us?
Well, yeah, 2 kids. Daughter's 16. My son is 14.
That's an adventure in and of itself.
Right.
Most definitely. My daughter's interested in boys now. So that definitely brings a new chapter to life.
Yeah.
That's one way to put it.
Especially when you're a dad with a past. So
Right.
you're protective of who comes around.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough.
yeah, married, 22 years. It'll be,
sorry.
oh wait. Yeah, it'll be 23. It'll be 23 this August.
Right.
So,
We're just rounding up.
Yeah, that's right.
Married my high school sweetheart, started dating about halfway through our junior year. And, that was way back in 96. Hard to believe. But
Wow.
yeah.
Time flies.
Yeah. I'm definitely in a different place than what I thought I would ever have been.
Right.
You know?
Aren't we all, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't.
And so how old are you
Not
now,
sure.
Trevor?
I am 44.
44.
Yep. And
Okay.
I feel it.
Right. And so you're 44. How long have you been clean now?
Since, excuse me, January 2nd of 2009.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you tell us why you're willing to kind of share your story?
Really, when you have a past of drugs, and you get clean, you go through a time where there's a lot of shame and guilt. But it was also a time where I met the Lord, and over the past 15 years now, I can see how doing this can encourage and help other people to make the same steps. It's something that, yeah, I'm ashamed of, but if I look at who I am now because of it, I wouldn't go back and change it.
So you learned from it and you
Yeah.
grew from it.
Right.
So
And it gives you the ability to teach your kids the mistakes that you made. It helps them to understand. And
Yeah.
just a side note, I mean, I know personally that your journey has resonated with my kids because there has been more than a couple of times where they have been offered specific things, and both of them have turned it down because they knew what happened with their Uncle Trevor. So,
Yeah.
could you give us a explanation of your story, like what happened and how?
Yeah. I guess so, like, becoming an addict, it's not something anybody ever chooses to do.
Right.
I can't really specifically nail it down to any one particular decision. At first, it was experimenting with painkillers due to just various aches and pains and injuries. And
When you say experimenting, you're talking about just finding something that would work for you because of what you were going through with physical pain?
yeah, with pain. And I had a person offer me Oxycontin one time. And this, at the time, I mean, Oxycontin was kind of new and not real heard of. And I took a little piece of one pill, and all of a sudden I was just like, oh my God, I feel like Superman.
Take on the world.
There's no pain and I could work all day. And so, of course, period of time went by, and I asked the guy again, hey, you got any more? And, so that I think that's kind of what.
Was there a specific injury you were trying to cover the pain of, or just the normal pain that went with just everything that had been going on in your life?
I had a pinched sciatic nerve, and I've had back problems for a long time. So it's been periodic aches and pains that sometimes there were really to the point where you feel like, man, I cannot work. But I had 2 babies at home and a house payment and a mortgage. So unfortunately, I made the dumb choice of purchasing off the streets rather than really going to a doctor, because I don't like doctors either. So. But yeah, that's kind of what led into it. And I mean, really, it quickly goes from enjoyment to now I'm taking this because if I don't, I feel worse than I did before I ever started using anything. And the switch went from pills to heroin because, honestly, heroin was cheaper. It was
that's crazy.
It was way, way cheaper. So, started doing that, and I was able to maintain, a steady job and work, but I was depleting our well, there was no savings account. I mean, it was every dime I had free was gone, and then some. But I guess kind of the big change came. It was New Year's Day of 2009, and we were at some friend's house for New Year's Day dinner. And I snuck off during the dinner to purchase some heroin, and went back and kind of took too much, I guess I could say, and was at a point where I was kind of really out of it. And my son, November, December, January, was 2 months old.
Oh, wow.
At the time. And I vaguely remember my wife asking me to hold him, but I was like nodding out and couldn't hardly function. And I didn't think too much of it at the time. I know she was mad. At that point, our relationship was pretty much roommates at that point. She knew something was wrong, but didn't know what. I tried to quit numerous times, and I'd start getting really sick, and Teresa would suggest that I go to the doctor or go to the hospital to find out what's wrong. And then I'd be like, no, I'm okay. And then I would sneak out that night when they're sleeping and re-up, because I'm like, oh no, I can't go to a doctor. I can't.
Because you knew what was wrong.
Right.
Yeah. And so that night when we got home and I'd had some time to sober up a little bit, it just like, it hit me heavy that take a drink of water.
Take your time.
Yeah, it hit me that, I was not being a dad, was not being a husband. And I never really like thought about suicide, but I felt like something had to change because my family would be better off without me.
Mm.
So I would fantasize about car wrecks or different things, or just
That's heartbreaking.
leaving. Don't know where, but felt like my wife deserved more. So, anyways, so that night after Teresa and the kids were in bed, that was kind of the first time that I really asked the Lord for help. Leading up to then, I've always believed in God. But that was the first time where I was like, okay, if you're real,
Yeah.
if this is for real, then I need help. So, and that was pretty much it. I went to sleep and got up the next morning and was on my way to work. It was snowing out, and I pulled into the fuel station by work and went in and got some coffee and was sitting in my car. I had, I don't know, 20 minutes still before I had to be to work, something like that. And I was just down the road. And I loaded a needle and was sitting there, and county sheriff pulled in the parking lot, and I just kind of kept staring at him. And he pulled over. I'm sure he thought it was odd that I'm sitting there with the window down when it's snowing. And so he walked up and asked me what was wrong, and I just moved my coat and had all my stuff sitting on the seat, and showed the sheriff and just said, I don't know what to do. I need help. I need to quit this. I swear, while I was sitting there, I was conversing with the Lord. I mean, call it crazy or weird, but I could hear his voice talking to me. Pretty much telling me that that today is it, that you're done. And because of the nature of the drugs, I was arrested and taken into county. And I can totally remember the ride there, talking to the sheriff and telling him that, like, it was like this total weight just came off of my shoulders. Because at that point, I knew there was no way I was ever going to quit using unless my family knew. And I never knew how to tell them. So I knew
You can't exactly hide getting arrested from your family.
Right.
No. So, I mean, I tell people that was like the best day and the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
Because I knew everyone was going to know. But I also knew at that very moment, even with trying to quit many other times, that I was done.
Yeah.
I knew it at that point, between feeling God's presence, knowing he's there with me, and then knowing that my family's gonna find out. And I wasn't scared that I wasn't gonna have family support or anything. I totally knew I would, with my family, my siblings, my dad and my mom and my extended family. I wasn't 100% certain about my wife, and obviously I didn't want a divorce, and I would not have blamed her if she wanted a divorce. Um, the at first when I let them know, there was actually a lot of support from my wife the day of,
Yeah.
and her family and some other folks. But I told them that I wanted to uh, go to detox because I knew I was going to get really sick, and I didn't.
Because you had tried it before and that's what had happened.
Yeah, try to imagine the worst flu you've ever had in your life and intensify it by 10. Taking a shower when coming off was like getting pelted by BB guns. I mean, every inch of your body just aches and hurts. And so, you spend 3 or 4 days just absolutely curled up in a ball. And it's a good month
Wow.
before the aches and pains finally start kind of subsiding. I know Tia, I stayed with them for I think 40 days after I got out of detox. And it was probably a month before I slept through a night because you'd wake up all night and your
A lot of shaking.
legs are shaking
Yeah.
and you're hot and you're cold, and just it was so miserable.
It was hard to see. It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
But while I went into detox, my wife and her family went through the house. And I think what kind of set some things off was I had stuff stashed in the house. And the night that I went to detox, I didn't like openly tell anyone. Because in my mind too, I knew I was done, but there's still a part of you that was like, I don't know, like I'm sitting there going, I don't,
What
like,
if?
I believe in this, but I don't know how I'm gonna just make it through a day.
Go through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Go through a day. I don't know how I'm gonna do that, and I don't remember if a few days later they asked me, or I think I told them where one stash was, but they found some others, and it just set a bunch of stuff into a snowball effect,
Mhm.
and they'd had time to really soak in the amount of money.
Right.
We had times where nieces and nephews had birthdays and we couldn't afford to buy them a present because of my addiction. But so we went through 10 months being separated. My wife couldn't live in the house. That was kind of the reason I went to Matt and Tia's, because I thought there's no way I can go home after 3 days in detox to an empty house and be there by myself. I was like,
With the family gone.
If I do that, then I'm gonna go back.
Right.
So I stayed with them until I felt comfortable going home. And even then I had a buddy come stay with me for probably another month before I stayed home by myself after that. And some really cool stuff transpired through it, though. I met a few other guys and we started meeting together and having Bible studies. And I would, well, let me step back a little bit. I was very fortunate where I was working. The company I was working for told me that they were going to lay me off because they knew I had a family and that I needed income so I could collect unemployment, and then told me to take however much time I needed
Wow,
to
that's amazing.
basically to get my stuff together, and so I was off work, I think about 6 months. I was doing side jobs and different things to, try and bring in some more income. But through that time off, I had a lot of time. Well, every day I went to an NA meeting or a church service, or I went through treatment, went to a outpatient treatment. So I was doing that every day for 3 months, something like that. But yeah, through that, I met some people. We started a Bible study, and we pretty much started meeting like 4 or 5 times a week. And it gradually went down to, I think, 1 or 2 nights a week. But through that, we would go to NA meetings around town and recruit new guys to come and join us. And we actually created a group called FO2, or Fellowship of the Unashamed. And after, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months, we actually got recognized by the state of Washington as the only faith-based recovery group that was accepted for AA meetings and NA meetings for people who had been arrested and were required to go to the meetings. So that was pretty cool. We probably saw, I mean, if I had to take a guess, 700 to 1,000 people over a about 5-6 year time period, something like that. It's not together anymore. Those of us that started it kind of wanted to get out of it and running it as we were moving further on in our recovery and getting closer to family and stuff. And unfortunately, we never really had anyone step up to kind of take it over.
But to be able to use what you guys were going through to develop something that helped so many others, even if it was for a period of time, that's amazing. And that's such a beautiful thing.
And that was a group that was not geared to just one addiction. It was multiple addictions.
Yeah. Wow. It started with basically drugs, but I mean, within a couple of years, we had guys for gambling addictions, for pornography, for alcohol, anything you can imagine. And we had guys that joined us as well that really weren't struggling with anything, which was also a blessing to have those people with us. So, but yeah, that kind of, I guess, leads to where we are today, kind of. There's a lot more stuff in there.
Right, definitely.
Well, and we may be covering some of those with some of the questions that we have. So when you were in the midst of your addiction, I guess in my mind, I feel like you were in a completely different world than the rest of us were. And so did we as your family, or did you miss your family? Did you miss your friends while you were in the midst of using? Did it feel like you were completely cut off from them?
I would say no to being cut off, because not really being cut off, because my family, I'm sure, well, I know specifically from my dad and my wife that they knew something was going on, but nobody really knew exactly what was going on. So I wouldn't say I was cut off at all, but I definitely cut people off, because I think after that first or second time that you use and you're addicted, it becomes the only thing that you can think of. So, like emotions and loving people and all that, it's just, you got to dig to find it.
Yeah. So how much of your world centered around hiding your addiction, since nobody knew what was going on?
My whole world. Like, I pretty much tried to hide most everybody I used or used with or purchased from, or obviously I had some friends that knew, because I had some friends, a couple that are lifelong. We've been friends since kids that were going through it at the same time. So I mean, we knew, but I would shield my wife from them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we would never, if we were asked to go hang out or she wanted to meet them, I would, come up with some kind of excuse. So it's, I don't know, your whole life is a lie at that point, which is also one of the things that makes you go, what the hell am I doing? Because you can't keep things straight. And I don't know. You just, the best way I can explain it is, when you're in an addiction, when you're high, you feel like you can take on the world. And that's like the only thing you think about, is that I can do anything. And when you're not, you're like in a zombie state. There's no emotions. There's no nothing but the desire to find that mental place again where, okay, everything's fine. Like, I worry about it all the time, and would worry about getting caught and worry about 10 million different things.
Wow.
But the second it hit your body using, it was, all that goes away.
Yeah, Tia, I think you put it well when you said that, there was this separation of what he was going through from the rest of the world. So what would have been, maybe you can pick how you want to answer this, the most helpful or maybe least helpful thing a person could have said to you during this time?
I'm sure it's different for everybody, but I guess for me, considering people would have known, would have been to say something about, what kind of example are you being to your family?
Would that have been helpful or not?
It would have been helpful.
Yeah.
Do
you think when you were in the middle of that, if someone had confronted you about it, you could have admitted it? Or were you working so hard to cover things up that you would have still continued to try to do that?
I think early in, I would have just continued lying. Probably. I mean, I didn't like, I was fortunate. I was not strung out on heroin for like years. I mean, you hear of all these people on years and years, and I mean, it was less than a year for me. I attribute a lot of that to prayers from my mom and my grandma. But I was strung out on pills a lot longer. When I look back now, longer than I would have ever really realized. It was not every day, but it was a slow
Progression.
progression, but I don't like to disappoint people. So I think, had people known, or would have pushed me, maybe not friends, but definitely family. I think, had they known and pressured me, I would have been more than, I think, willing to admit, and because I wanted help.
Yeah.
I mean, from the very first time I put a needle in me, it was like, you looked at it and was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, I know this is probably the worst idea I've ever had in my life, but yet I'm doing it anyways. So
what I'm hearing you say is that in that time you were so isolated in your bubble that having someone outside of that bubble acknowledge what you knew in your head but didn't have that outside voice that would have been something. Because I think a lot of times people are afraid to confront someone who is an addict.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
they don't want them to react or disown them or, whatever.
Well, yeah, and you don't know how they're going to react,
right.
if they're going to be upset or angry. Because, and just as an example, the Thanksgiving before Trevor was found out, or I should say before he was arrested, we had our family get together. And I remember talking to Tara at some point, asking her, we were standing in the kitchen. We had our Thanksgiving at the church, and we're standing in the kitchen. And I remember asking Tara, is Trevor okay? There's something wrong with Trevor. And she's like, I don't know. He's acting kind of strange. And I went to him at one point and I said, are you okay? And he said, yeah, I think I'm just fighting a flu or something. I'm just not feeling well and my back hurts. You have as the sister or a family member or a friend, there is very obviously something wrong, but you also have family dynamics that only you as a family understand.
Right.
And so you don't know if I say something, is he going to look at it as an accusatory thing?
Right.
Or am I just worried about him? So, nobody says anything until it gets to the point where you just have as a family member, as a friend, I think you tell yourself, no, he would never do that. He would never do that. And it's hard to believe that the person you've known your entire life has made this decision when you know that they have gone against that in their entire embodiment of who they are. And so you tell yourself, oh, he's not doing that. And so you don't push them. You don't react. You don't, and that's just me speaking from, a sister's point of view. But both Tara and I knew there was something wrong with him, but we didn't push him.
Not quite sure what. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think we all asked too, and he gave basically the same answer.
Yeah.
I'm just not feeling good. My back hurts. And we all knew he had back issues to begin with.
Right.
And so
it gave us an excuse to not look deeper too.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think my wife would have probably pushed me more. But one thing I learned when we did some counseling together was she made a comment that when I was using, I would get very angry really fast and would raise my voice. Her words were that I would yell. And she said that she actually had times where she felt like she couldn't say anything because I would get so mad that maybe I would hit her, which absolutely blew my mind to hear that.
Right.
Because I was never so high and incoherent that I could have done something like that and not remembered it or realized it. But never in my life has a thought like that come over come through my mind in any way.
Yeah.
So to hear that was like, it was shocking to me that she was actually that scared. And I normally speak loud anyways. So, that I'm sure maybe if my demeanor would have been different, that maybe she would have, dug more. I don't know. I can't really speak for her, but I know that was like shocking to me because I feel like I'm a pretty soft natured person. I'm not a fighter. I don't get in people's faces. So yeah, but when you're high, you're not who you are.
Yeah.
You are completely different. You're from the inside out. Nothing is the person that you really are.
Yeah. How long had you guys
been
been married when it got to this point?
9 years.
Yeah.
So, but like I said earlier about, I wouldn't change things. Like we went through a 10-month separation, which was traumatizing to me. It was a struggle because I know there was times in there where I felt like, they felt like I had hurt them and abandoned them. And I had times where I was fighting and feeling like, well, you abandoned me at a time where I needed you the most.
Right.
So, but, and I don't know, maybe it's the way the Lord works through things, but it gave me an opportunity to see things through the eyes of Teresa. So it was actually a good separation, and it's made our marriage, I believe, 10 times better than it ever would have been
That's
had I not gone through this.
Right.
So
when you look back at, our family, your core family, and the hub of who existed around you, your support system, can you give us an example or tell us, like, if the family of a drug addict were asking for advice, is there something that you could tell them? Yes, my support system was great doing this, but I wish they hadn't done this, or this wasn't met. Is there somehow that you could help a support system be a better support system for an addict?
I mean, I can't really point out anything in my support system where I felt like, oh, this is too much, or I mean, obviously the hardest part was me and Teresa, because it took like, say, 10 months of separation, and in her mind, she didn't know when I was not lying to her anymore, when she could trust me again. And to me, in my mind, January 2nd, 2009, I was done. And I knew in my mind that this is done. So the steps from here forward are steps I'm going to take because she wants me to. So that was really tough, but again, I can't change it, and I wouldn't want to change it, because it's just given us a much better understanding. And I mean, I believe she loves me 10 times more than she did prior to that, and vice versa. The one thing I would say to families is, and I didn't have to experience this, so I don't know, maybe no one would want to listen to me, but tough love. I mean, I remember my dad. The one thing my dad told me the first time when he picked me up, he came and picked me up from jail, and we went to my house, and in the car, like, the only thing he said was, I'm going to help you do this, but you got one shot. So, and like I say, to me, I don't know. I mean, some people, I don't know how they don't hit a bottom. I was at a bottom just looking at my family. It didn't take me being homeless. It didn't take me watching a friend overdose. I found my bottom, I think, pretty quickly. So, I mean, I'm blessed for that. But yeah, tough love. I mean, an addict, you can't offer and cliche, everyone's heard it, but you can't offer help to someone who's not ready for it.
Right.
It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money.
Right.
As a family, if I look at, my kids, I love my kids. I would die for my kids. If they pull the crap that I did, it's going to be the same way. They get one chance. I'm going to love them, and I'm going to be there, but I'm not going to give them money. I'm not going to give them a place to stay. I'm not going to give them anything that can enable them to continue using. If anything, I'm going to try and push them to find their bottom, hopefully before they die.
Right.
Sooner than later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because this bringing them in and giving them money here and, over and over, it's
Coddling
it's
doesn't
not going
work.
to help.
No. And it's so hard as a parent when you see your kid. I mean, I'm sure when dad said that to you, it hurt him
Oh, yeah.
as much or more than it hurt you.
Yeah.
Because when your kids are going through the worst time of their life and you know that the only thing that's going to help them, depending, and that is, this is because I know you and because I know dad, him knowing this is the only way that's going to help him had to have been absolutely heartbreaking as your dad.
Yeah. I mean, it was heartbreaking to listen to because I felt like I disappointed him, as a son, and more or less because we didn't grow up in a broken home,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, in a lot of addicts' lives, you can look into them and there's a broken home or there's no dad or there's no mom or something traumatic happened, but I didn't. I didn't. It was just a stupid choice somewhere down the road.
And it shows you drugs can affect anybody. And
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
So how has your life changed since you stopped using drugs?
Everything's changed for the better. One of the first things I did after getting out of the detox was I went through my phone and erased everybody. I messaged every person who I had ever dealt with and said, hey, this is what's going on. Some of them were people that I really liked, and I just flat out told them, I love you guys, but I can't have you in my life. And the crazy thing is, a lot of people don't understand this, but the crazy thing is most of those people were addicts as well, and most of them were actually some of the biggest encouragements. Like, they were like, no problem. This is cool, because nobody on drugs wants to stay on drugs. I mean, there might be a few people out there, but
Right.
it's just it's a painful world. So most people don't want that. So there was actually encouragement from them. And, every once in a while I'd run into someone in the street that I'd used with or dealt with. And it was never like, hey, want to hang out? It's like, hey, dude, how you doing? Like, how long has it been? Congratulations. You might not get that from a big time dealer, because they're trying to draw everybody in, and they just all they're thinking
It's
is
a business.
money.
Yeah.
But kind of lost what the question was.
No, you're good. 'Cause I
That's
gotta
okay.
go.
You're
Right
good.
there.
Yeah.
So what got you out of bed today?
I like my life. I like
That's
my
awesome.
job. I love my family. I guess kind of piggybacking off of the last question, now that popped back in my head, is, one of the big effects I'm feeling now that isn't great is it took a toll on my body.
Right.
And I've probably aged a few years ahead of where I should be. So that part's a constant reminder. But I love, I don't know, God's just put me in a good place and surrounded me with awesome people, and I get opportunities like this every once in a while to hopefully make a difference in someone's life. And one of the things with being an addict and having recovery and the Lord is you have a different passion for and a heart for lost people.
Yeah.
And for drug addicts.
Right.
Like, drug addicts can be annoying. People can hate them. I hate them, but I love them too, because I know that in their head they're fighting something, and they're not who they were,
Right.
Yeah.
who they are inside.
They don't want to be where they're at.
No,
Yeah.
So have you forgiven yourself?
most definitely. Yeah. It took like I say, it took a few years. And I think when it really like was clear to me was, gosh, it's probably been maybe less than a year. I don't even remember what I'm an elder at our church, and I was on the stage talking, and the pastor asked me about if I could give a quick testimony. And that was caught me by surprise. I was unprepared for that. I had no problem doing that. I'd given my testimony in the church before in front of people. But that was the first time my kids were sitting in the audience.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
And I had not, they knew that I had a past. They may have known that there was drugs involved, but I never talked to them about it yet specifically. So that was the first time they heard my story. So that was obviously, I think I had forgiven myself because I was actually kind of excited to do it in front of my kids.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I would have been a little more prepared, but
Right.
yeah. So I don't know. I just, like I say, I'm so different than what I was even prior to using, I think.
You are definitely.
I was more aggressive, louder, harder. I know some of my humor has probably slipped away that I had prior to using, but definitely softer, more family driven. You know, I used to like to go out all the time and be with lots of people. Now I just prefer to go home, be with my family and be at home. And yeah, when I get the opportunity to talk with someone, do it.
Nice. So have you developed any like coping mechanisms? And if so, what have they been to help you stay clean?
God's word. And that's what it comes
Nice.
down to. God's word. There is like triggers. It's kind of crazy. Like when it was snowing when I got arrested, when I was in detox, like the only thing I consumed while I was in there was like freezing cold apple juice. I can just remember freezing cold apple juice. So like every year, first time it snows, I start
Craving apple juice?
No, start having flashbacks.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I'll have user dreams. But that first,
after 14 years. It's been 14 years.
That first smell, like that first smell of snow instantly puts me back in detox. And same if I drink like apple juice that's almost frozen. Those two things are like complete triggers.
Wow.
I gotta quit saying like. I just realized I'm saying that a lot.
So what do you do when that happens?
Now
You recognize it and move on.
I ignore it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, I don't really have the dreams so much anymore, but for the first probably close to 10 years, like,
Wow.
yeah, like you'd wake up so pissed at yourself thinking that it's so realistic that I'd wake up and, oh my gosh, I'm using. And then you realize it's a dream. And then you're still pissed at yourself that that even floats through your head.
Right.
Wow.
So
what can those around you do to help you not return to where you were?
honestly, for me, I have no fear of it. Like Jesus set me free when I asked him to. And I've never, I other than them weird dreams, I cannot recall once fighting it in my head to go out and use.
Wow,
That's great.
That's amazing.
So, and I've told so many people in recovery or trying to get into recovery that Jesus is what you need.
Yeah.
That's what will. Everyone using is searching for something, and we're trying to fill a void. And it's drugs, it's alcohol, maybe it's work, maybe it's TV, whatever it is. So you need to discover
Something to replace it.
Yeah, and I had some of the most crazy, like, religious and Jesus talks with people when we were high. And even now, like, my comment to a lot of people when they go, "Oh, yeah, the Jesus thing, whatever," my comment would be challenge them. That's what I did. Challenge them and say, "Hey, if you're real and you can really help me, then prove it.
Yeah.
Prove it to me."
Wow.
So
You have to also be open to accepting that too.
Yeah.
Listening for it.
Yeah. So you said that, coping mechanisms that you develop would be God's word. So what does that look like for you?
Well, there's an answer in there for everything. Temptations. Jesus went through temptations. We're going to go through. Not all of us handle them the same way. Obviously, I could have handled them a lot different and better, but if I'm tempted, we can read in, I think it's 2 Corinthians, 1st or 2 Corinthians 2:13 that says that, that we will be tempted, but the Lord is going to give us a way out.
Yeah.
And that's in his word. If I'm angry, I can find advice in the Bible, and doing those things brings it really draws the presence of the Lord to you. So you feel his presence. Like, it's really crazy because going through that first 9-month time period, and really searching for God and the Lord, like, I felt his presence around me daily, like, physically could feel it. And I could go on for hours on the different things that I could see him working in my life, going through those things. And it was so real to the point where, as I started to mature and everything started coming back to reality and a new life and all these things, like, I would crave that, hitting that low point again, just so that I could feel that presence and that closeness that I was experiencing with the Lord. And I mean, it's there, but it's there, but it's not there.
It's different.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different, but it was so realistic to me at that time because I needed it so bad that that's kind of the new crave.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously my family. And
do you have any other hobbies that you've picked up to help you process or decompress in a healthy way?
Played a lot of softball and realized that my body don't like that anymore. And then thankfully my kids started playing sports about the same time, and I absolutely loved coaching my daughter in softball and my son in baseball and football. Unfortunately, those days are done now because they're in high school and junior high. But I absolutely love that, and I loved that for sake of being with my kids. And one of the things I've tried to do since, a life change is to be encouraging to the kids that I coach. And it's been really cool too, to walk around town and have kids that are in junior high and high school now come up and say, "Hey, coach." And, I would write encouraging letters to each kid at the end of each season. And I know a couple of them, their parents said that that's hanging on their walls. And
Well, that's
So,
awesome.
great.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of lived through my kids in sports, and then, I'm really involved in church and serve as an elder there, and yeah, so
That's
trying to
awesome.
do wherever God leads.
Yeah. So, what do you think is the biggest misconception about drug addiction?
I think people, and I kind of feel bad saying this, but people who have never done it, you're never going to understand it, and you're never going to realize how hard
Yeah.
it is to get away
So,
from.
someone who has not been in it is like, oh, well, why don't you just do this or
Right.
just do that? They
Yeah.
don't understand.
Yeah, like when I was in treatment, going through treatment, I had a couple different counselors. One of them didn't have a past
Uh-huh.
in drugs. The other one had a pretty serious past with alcoholism. And just listening to the two of them and the way they would react or the questions that they would ask, it was like, it's so obvious that what you're trying to teach me, you read from a book.
Right.
Oh, right.
This did not come from something
Mhm.
that you've experienced, so I think understanding, the understanding of the battle. Like, I've fought some crazy things. I mean, I've been through some crazy stuff, and losing grandparents and my mom, and there's different challenges I've had, but nothing compares, because you're fighting a mental battle. I think probably the closest that someone would probably understand would be someone who has mental problems,
Yeah.
schizophrenic,
Like mental
or
illness.
Like health.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you shouldn't be doing this. You don't want to be doing
Mhm.
this, but there's this constant battle going on in your head, and unfortunately, most of the time, the drugs win.
Yeah.
Right.
So you need to find something. People need to find something to live for. For me, it was the Lord and my family, and I personally feel like the desires to use are never going to go away for someone who does not have the Lord in their life. And I don't just say that because I'm a believer. I say that because I went to meeting after meeting after meeting of people who have been clean for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you name it, and they're still miserable. They're still miserable with their life,
Oh, wow.
and they're still fighting that
Those
urge,
demons. Yeah.
every day. So,
Hmm.
but that's me as a believer.
So, do you have any advice that you could give to family or friends who are dealing with somebody who's struggling with addiction?
My best advice would be to love them, let them know it, but don't do anything that can support it. And it's easy for me to say that right now because my kids aren't on drugs.
Right.
Yeah.
But if they were, I know it would be hard. I would probably get in a lot of fights and arguments with my wife because she's never been in that, and she'd probably be more okay over and over again.
Is that the difference between men and women in general, too? Yeah.
And you can't do that if you give them any route, any way that makes it easier. It's enabling. So that would probably be my best advice.
That's good.
Yeah. Nothing harder than seeing your kids in pain. So,
Yeah.
or hurting in any way. Is there anything else that we didn't cover today that you might like to add?
Gosh, there's so many things, especially since it's been so many years. I've had the opportunities to to really do a lot of stuff and talk to a lot of people because of this. It's really what built a relationship, I think, with me and Dad.
Right.
You know, prior to this, I always looked at Dad as a boss more than, I mean, we didn't talk about personal stuff. I never talked to Dad about relationships or what I'm doing on my own time or anything like that. So, yeah, like I said, I wouldn't change it because I can't imagine more good coming to my life than what has come to my life because of my past.
Yeah.
And because you made the decision to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fight. Like I don't know. It's always going to be a fight. You know, I've worried. I guess, like I don't have the desire to use, but it's always a worry in the back of your mind. You know, what am I? You know, where's my frame of mind going to be if something happens to one of my kids, or if my wife passes before I do, or you know, something happens and we lose the house,
traumatic
or whatever.
event.
So those type of things always flow in the back of your head, and I'm sure it does for everybody. But I'm adding a step in there of what am I going to do? How am I going to react? Am I going to turn back to the use this and not have to worry about anything, or fight it, you know, the way I should? So I guess that's kind of my battle and my challenge. But yeah, I guess my last words would be, if there's anyone that's listening that is struggling, reach out. You know, really, you've got to put yourself out there, and you've got to stand up for what you're about to face. I mean, you got to fess up.
And there are resources.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be really hard, but it's worth it. You know, you can still have a life, and
anything worth having is work, though, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The scary, I think the scary part for most people on drugs or addicted to anything is the initial confessing it to everybody. You know, I guess I can't speak for someone who's been in and out, and their families have been fighting for them for years here and there. You know, for me, the hardest thing was letting everyone down. That's how I feel. Even if they didn't feel like I let them down, I feel like I let them down. So, yeah, being able to step over that barrier and find support.
Well, Trevor,
That's great.
before we ask you the final question, I just want to thank you so much for your vulnerability, your willingness to be here, and just what you shared with us today.
Yeah,
I know that Tia and Tara knew your story. I had only heard bits and pieces, and I know that this is not easy for you guys to go through, or for you guys to share, but I so appreciate your willingness to be open and just transparent.
And you'll have to bug my wife to come on, because I'm sure
she has a different perspective.
She has a very different perspective, especially of the first
10 months.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Perspective, yeah.
And just for me, as your big sister, it was really hard to see you go through everything. And I just want you to know personally that I am so proud of who you are today.
Well, thank you.
So we have this thing where we ask a question at the end, and it's the same question, but we change the word every time. So what is the first thing that comes to your mind when we say the word hope?
Jesus.
Perfect. Perfect.
All right. And again, we just want to say thank you for sharing your story, and to let everybody else know that on our next episode, we'll be interviewing Nick. Nick is a funeral home director, as well as a licensed embalmer and cremator. We've got quite the collection of questions that you, our listeners, are wanting to ask. So hopefully we'll get to all of those.
Yeah, don't miss it.
Thank you for joining us on Curiosity Unleashed. We need your suggestions for who you'd like us to interview on future episodes and your help creating the list of questions that we'll ask future guests. So be sure to check out our social media on Facebook and Instagram, Curiosity Unleashed Podcast. You can also send us an email, curiosityunleashedpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, I'm Emily.
I'm Tia.
And I'm Tara.
See you next time.